The human did not know why the sky turned red. One moment, he was standing inside the landing zone, checking his broken scanner. The next moment, the ground began to shake. The air grew heavy, thick, and cold. The strange alien city around him fell silent, as if the world itself was holding its breath. He looked up. Massive ships moved across the sky like dark shadows. Their shapes were sharp and royal, covered in glowing symbols he could not read. The sound of their engines was low and deep, like the growl of a sleeping giant dot before the human could react. Armored figures surrounded him. They were tall, much taller than him. Their armor shined with silver and black metal, their eyes glowing behind smooth helmets. Long energy spears pointed directly at his chest. He slowly raised his hands. "I am not your enemy," he said in calm but careful English. The aliens did not answer. One of them stepped forward and touched a device on his arm. A beam of blue light wrapped around the human's body. His muscles froze. He could not move. Panic rose in his chest, but he forced himself to breathe. This was not an arrest. This was a capture. Moments later, he was pulled into the air and taken inside one of the massive ships. The doors closed behind him with a deep metallic sound that echoed like a final warning. When the ship landed, the human felt it immediately. Power. The place was different. The air felt ancient, heavy with history and authority. The doors opened, and bright light filled his vision. He was dragged forward, his boots touching smooth stone floors. On both sides, tall pillars reached up toward a ceiling so high it vanished into shadows. Strange glowing symbols moved slowly along the walls, like living words. This was not a prison. This was a palace. Rows of alien figures stood in silence, watching him pass. Some looked curious, some looked angry. Others looked at him as if he were nothing more than a small insect. The human swallowed. He had faced danger before. War zones, hostile planets, near-death missions. But this was different. At the far end of the massive hall stood a throne. It was carved from dark crystal and glowing gold metal. Behind it, a symbol burned in the air like a living star. Sitting upon the throne was the alien queen. She was tall, even while seated. Her presence filled the entire hall. Her crown was sharp and elegant, and her eyes glowed with cold intelligence. Power rolled off her like invisible waves. The guards forced the human to his knees. The sound echoed through the hall. Silence followed. The queen studied him for a long moment. Her gaze was calm, sharp, and unreadable. The human felt like she was not just looking at his body, but into his mind, his past, his future. Finally she spoke. Her voice was smooth, deep, and carried easily through the massive hall. So the alien queen said slowly, "This is the human." A low murmur moved through the court. A fragile species, short lifespan, unremarkable body. The human clenched his fists. The queen raised one hand, and the voices stopped instantly. She stood from her throne. Every alien bowed. She stepped forward, her long cloak flowing behind her. Each step echoed like a judgment. She stopped only a few feet from the human. "Look at me," she commanded. The human lifted his head. Their eyes met. Something changed. For the first time, the queen's expression shifted just slightly. Not surprise, not anger. Interest. "You do not beg," she said. "You do not scream. You do not look away." The human said nothing. He knew one wrong word could end his life. The queen turned and walked back to her throne. She sat down slowly and rested one arm on its side. Then she spoke words that shattered the silence and changed everything. "Human," the alien queen said, her voice clear and absolute. "You have been summoned before my throne for a reason." The human's heart pounded. She leaned forward. "You will marry my daughter." The hall exploded into chaos. Alien nobles shouted. Guards stiffened. Some laughed in disbelief. Others looked furious. The human felt his breath leave his lungs. Marry her daughter? He thought he had misheard, but the queen's eyes never left him. "This is not a request," she continued calmly. "This is a command." The human's mind raced. Why him? Why? A human? Why now? He opened his mouth to speak, but stopped, because for the first time since he entered the hall, he noticed something important. The guards had tightened their grip on their weapons. He understood the truth instantly. There was no choice. Refusal meant death. As the queen watched him in silence, the human realized one thing: his life as a simple human explorer was over, and whatever fate waited ahead of him. The entire galaxy was about to change. The throne hall slowly returned to silence. The shock of the queen's command still hung heavy in the air. Alien nobles whispered among themselves, their voices sharp and angry. Some looked at the human with open hate. Inside, his thoughts moved fast. He had faced danger many times in his life, but this was different. This was not about survival alone. This was about power. The alien queen raised her hand once more. Silence returned instantly. "You question my decision," she said, her voice cold and controlled. "I can feel it." She stood again and slowly walked down the steps of her throne. Her eyes never left the human. "You wonder why I chose a human," she continued. "Why not one of my own kind? Why not a warrior, a noble, or a king?" The human swallowed. "Yes," he said carefully. "I do." A few nobles hissed in anger. A human daring to speak? The queen did not react. "Good," she said. "Then you will listen." She turned to face the court. "Our empire stands at the edge of a future we cannot control," the queen said. "A threat approaches from beyond known space. A force that does not fear our weapons, our fleets, or our numbers." A large hologram appeared above the floor. It showed broken worlds, burned cities, silent stars. The court grew uneasy. "This enemy learns fast," the queen continued. "They adapt. They change. They evolve." Her eyes returned to the human. "And that," she said, "is why I chose him." The nobles reacted at once. "A human is weak. They die easily. They are short-lived." The queen raised her voice slightly. "And yet," she said, "they survive." The hall fell quiet again. "Humans fight without hope," the queen said. "They continue even when logic says surrender. They change tactics when others repeat mistakes. They grow stronger through loss." She stepped closer to the human. "They adapt faster than any species we have studied." The human listened in silence. He had never heard humans described this way before. The queen turned her gaze toward a raised platform beside the throne. "Bring my daughter forward." A new figure stepped into the light. The alien princess was tall and graceful. Her armor was light but strong, her eyes sharp and focused. She did not look afraid. She did not look pleased either. She looked trapped. Her gaze met the human's for a brief moment. There was no warmth in her eyes, only duty. "This is my daughter," the queen said. "She will one day rule after me." The human finally understood. This was not about love. This was about survival. "Our future ruler must stand beside someone who can face the unknown," the queen continued. "Someone who does not break when the rules fail." She turned to the human again. "You have crossed hostile worlds and lived. You have faced enemies stronger than you and won." The human felt every eye on him. "You are not chosen because you are special," the queen said. "You are chosen because you are human." The nobles were furious. "This is madness. He will bring weakness. He will shame the bloodline." The queen's voice turned sharp. "Enough." Her eyes burned with power. "You speak of weakness," she said, "yet your minds are locked in old thinking." She looked back at the human. "You are afraid," she said quietly. "Yes," he admitted. "Good," the queen replied. "Fear keeps you alive." The human took a slow breath. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked. The queen did not hesitate. You die, she said simply. The princess turned her head slightly. For the first time, her expression changed. The queen continued, her tone calm again. But if you accept, she said, you will be tested, watched, judged. She leaned forward. If you fail, you will still die. The human nodded. There, it was no escape, only one path forward. He lifted his head and looked at the queen. I accept, he said. A ripple moved through the court. The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had placed a powerful piece on a dangerous board. Good, she said. Your trials begin at dawn. As guards stepped forward, the human realized one truth. The galaxy believed humans were weak. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. Dawn came without sunlight. The alien world did not greet the day with warmth. Instead, the sky glowed in deep shades of purple and gray. Tall towers cast long shadows across the royal grounds as the human was led from his chamber. He had not slept. His mind was too full. Every step echoed with one thought: survive. The guards brought him to a wide-open arena. The ground was smooth, metal, cold under his boots. Massive walls surrounded the space, and above them sat rows of alien nobles. Their eyes watched him closely, waiting for him to fail. At the highest platform stood the alien queen. Beside her stood the princess, silent and still. The trials will begin, the queen announced. Her voice carried across the arena. They are not designed for fairness, she said. They are designed for truth. A low hum filled the air as machines rose from the floor. Strange devices, weapons, and symbols appeared around the human. The first trial began without warning. The ground beneath his feet suddenly shifted. Panels opened and closed at random. Heat blasted from below, then freezing air struck seconds later. The human stumbled, nearly falling. The nobles laughed. Watch him break. His body cannot handle this. The human focused on his breathing. He did not try to fight the arena. He learned it. He moved when the ground moved. He slowed when it slowed. He stopped when stopping felt wrong. Minutes passed. The arena grew quiet. The human still stood. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. The second trial began immediately. The arena vanished. Darkness swallowed everything. The human felt something wrap around his mind. Memories flooded his thoughts: loss, fear, failure, pain. Voices whispered in languages he could not understand, yet somehow knew. You are alone. You do not belong here. He dropped to one knee. The nobles smiled. Again, but the human did not scream. He remembered Earth. He remembered standing when others fell. He remembered surviving when logic said he should not. I am still here, he whispered. The darkness cracked. Light returned. The second trial ended. The arena trembled as the third trial activated. A massive alien beast rose from the floor. Its body was armored, its eyes glowing red. It roared, shaking the walls. Gasps filled the stands. This is too much. It will kill him. The human had no weapon, no shield, only his mind. The beast charged. The human did not run forward. He ran sideways. He watched how the creature moved, how it turned, how its weight slowed it. When it attacked, it overreached. The human used the arena. He lured the beast into striking the walls. He stayed low. He stayed fast. He stayed alive. Finally, the creature collapsed from exhaustion. The human stood, breathing hard. Alive. Silence filled the arena. The nobles no longer laughed. The queen stood slowly. The final trial remains, she said. The arena changed once more. A small platform rose from the floor. On it were two figures inside. Energy fields. One was the princess. The other was a human prisoner. The human's chest tightened. A choice, the queen said. You may save only one. The nobles leaned forward. Choose the princess, someone whispered. Choose your kind, another said. The human looked at both. He understood the test. This was not about logic. It was about values. He spoke calmly. If I choose myself, he said, I die later. If I choose power, I lose myself now. He moved, not toward the princess, not toward the prisoner. He moved toward the control panel. Before the guards could react, he slammed his hand onto it. The system overloaded. Both fields collapsed. The arena erupted in noise. The queen raised her hand. Silence returned. The human stood between the freed figures. I will not rule by sacrifice, he said. If this future needs cruelty, it is already lost. The princess stared at him. Something changed in her eyes. The queen watched him carefully. For the first time, she did not look like a ruler judging a subject. She looked like a leader seeing hope. The trials are complete, the queen announced. The nobles were stunned. The human was exhausted, bruised, and bleeding, but he was standing. As guards approached, the human realized one thing. He had not proven he was strong. He had proven he was human. And in this galaxy, that was far more dangerous. The palace was never truly quiet. Even in its calmest hours, power moved through its halls like a living thing. The human felt it as he walked beside the guards. Every step echoed with unseen eyes watching him. Word of the trials had spread fast. Some aliens looked at him with respect. Others looked at him with anger. A few looked at him with fear. Fear was the most dangerous. He was given a chamber high within the palace walls. The room was large, clean, and cold. A single window showed the alien city far below, glowing with endless lights. This was not a reward. This was a cage made of stone and silence. The human stood near the window, thinking. He knew he had survived the trials, but survival had a cost. He had changed the balance inside the court. And balance never liked to be disturbed. Far below, inside a dark council chamber, several alien nobles gathered in secret. Their armor was rich. Their voices were sharp. This human shames us, one said. He weakens our bloodline, said another. The queen has lost clarity, a third whispered. They did not see a guest. They saw a threat. If he becomes bonded to the princess. One noble said slowly, our influence ends. A quiet agreement filled the room. The human must not see another dawn. That night, the lights in the palace dimmed. The human lay on his resting platform, eyes closed, but his mind awake. Years of danger had taught him one truth: peace was often a lie. A faint sound reached his ears. Too soft, too careful. He opened his eyes just as the door slid open without a sound. 3 shadows entered the room. Blades of dark energy formed in their hands. The human rolled away as the first strike hit the place where his head had been seconds before. The platform split apart. He had no weapon, no armor, only instinct. He grabbed a broken piece of metal and swung wildly. One attacker fell back, surprised. Another moved fast, almost too fast. Pain exploded across the human side. He cried out, but did not fall. The door burst open. A bright blade cut through the darkness. One assassin dropped to the floor. The others hesitated. Standing in the doorway was the princess. Her eyes burned with fury. Leave, she commanded. The assassins fled. Without a word, silence returned, broken only by the human's heavy breathing. The princess rushed to his side. You are bleeding, she said. I noticed, he replied weakly. She helped him sit up and pressed her hand over the wound. A soft light formed beneath her fingers, slowing the blood. Why did you come? He asked. She did not answer right away. They planned to kill you, she said finally. I learned of it too late. He looked at her. You could have let it happen. Yes, she said quietly. But I did not. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Trust. The next day, the queen summoned the court. The human stood beside the princess, his wound still fresh. The nobles shifted uneasily. They knew The queen's voice cut through the hall. "An attempt was made on the human's life," she said calmly. Murmurs spread like fire. "I know who ordered it," she continued. "I also know why." Her eyes moved across the court. "Fear," she said. "Fear of change." She stepped forward. "Understand this," the queen said, her voice sharp as steel. "The human lives because I allow it. He stands because he has earned it." She turned toward the human. "You are no longer a guest," she declared. "You are under my direct protection." Gasps echoed. The nobles' faces hardened. That night, the human and the princess stood on a high balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly before them. "You did not have to save me," he said. "I know," she replied. "Why did you?" She was silent for a long moment. "Because you chose mercy," she said. "And because you remind me that the future does not have to be cruel." The human nodded. Below them, the palace seemed peaceful, but both of them knew the truth. The shadows had not vanished. They were waiting, and next time, they would strike harder. The palace gathered in silence. The great hall was full, yet no one spoke. The assassination attempt had changed everything. The court no longer saw the human as a strange outsider. Now they saw him as a spark that could burn the empire or save it. The human stood before the throne again. This time, he stood on his feet. The alien queen watched him closely. Her eyes were calm, but behind them was careful thought. "You have survived trials, betrayal, and fear," the queen said. "Yet the court still questions you." She raised her hand. "Today," she continued, "you will speak." A low wave of surprise moved through the nobles. The human felt his throat tighten. He had fought beasts and assassins, but words felt heavier than blades. "Tell us," the queen said, "why humanity should stand beside our throne." The hall grew silent. The human took a slow breath. "I am not a king," he began. "I am not a hero." Some nobles scoffed. "I am human," he continued. "And that is all I can offer." He looked around the hall. "Humans are not the strongest," he said. "We are not the fastest. We do not live the longest," he paused, "but we endure." Images appeared in the air around them, Earth cities. Under fire, humans standing together in ruins, rebuilding after disaster. "When we fall," he said, "we stand again." The nobles watched closely now. "We fight wars we do not want," he continued. "We lose people we love. And still we move forward." The princess watched him carefully. "We learn from pain," the human said. "We adapt. We change. We survive." He looked directly at the queen. "You fear the enemy that approaches," he said. "So do we." A quiet murmur moved through the court. "We have faced extinction before," the human continued. "We are still here." Silence followed. Then one noble stepped forward. "Words are easy," he said sharply. "Humans die like any other." The human nodded. Double quotes, "Yes," he said. "We die." He stepped closer to the center of the hall. "But while we live," he said, "we fight for those beside us." He turned slightly toward the princess. "Not because we are ordered to," he said, "but because we choose to." The queen leaned forward. "Choice," she repeated. "Yes," the human said. "Choice is our strength." The hall remained quiet. The queen stood. "You speak of humanity," she said. "But my empire demands proof." She lifted her hand, and a new image appeared, an alien outpost under attack by unknown forces. Smoke and fire filled the scene. "This outpost will fall within hours," the queen said. "Our forces are delayed." She looked at the human. "What would you do?" The human studied the image. He did not answer right away. "They will expect strength," he said finally. "So I would not meet them with strength." The nobles frowned. "I would evacuate the civilians first," he said. "Then use small teams to strike where they do not expect." Risky, one noble said. Human, the queen said. You would risk soldiers. Yes, he replied. But I would save lives. The queen watched him carefully. Then she turned to the court. This, she said, is why humanity matters. She stepped down from the throne. Humans do not seek domination, she continued. They seek survival together. She looked at her daughter. And rulers who forget that, she said, will lose everything. The princess stepped forward. She bowed her head slightly toward the human. A sign of respect, the court gasped. The queen raised her voice. From this moment, she declared, the human stands not as a test subject, but as an ally. Some nobles looked furious. Others looked thoughtful. The queen turned to the human one last time. You have shown us your truth, she said, but the galaxy will demand more. She leaned closer. The war approaches. The human nodded. I know, he said as the hall slowly emptied. The princess walked beside him. They will never see humans the same way again, she said quietly. He looked ahead. That is only the beginning, he replied. Above them, the stars burned cold and distant, and somewhere beyond them, the enemy was already moving. The war did not begin with a warning. It began with silence. Stars went dark without explosions. Communication lines failed one by one. Entire outposts stopped responding, leaving only empty signals drifting through space. The enemy had arrived. Inside the alien command chamber, holograms flickered with broken images. Officers spoke quickly, fear clear in their voices. Fleets were moving, but not fast enough. The alien queen stood at the center of it all. Her face was calm, her eyes were not. The enemy does not attack our strength, she said. They cut our veins. She turned to the human standing beside the princess. What do you see? She asked. The human studied the maps. Red marks appeared where systems had fallen. He noticed the pattern. They are testing us, he said. They want us to rush. The queen nodded. Double quotes. They want us to fight like them, he continued. Big fleets, direct force. He looked up. So we do not. Orders spread quickly. Small ships moved instead of massive fleets. Supply routes were hidden. Traps were set. In empty space. The enemy advanced, then slowed. Confusion spread through their ranks. On the outer edge of the empire, the first major battle began. Alien warships clashed with dark shifting enemy vessels. Energy weapons lit the void. Explosions shook space itself. The human stood aboard a command ship, watching everything unfold. Enemy flank moving. An officer said, "Let them," the human replied. "They think it is weak." The enemy fell into the trap. Hidden mines activated. Small strike teams hit from unexpected angles. The enemy ships faltered, unprepared for disorder. The princess led a squadron into battle. Her ship moved fast and precise. She did not fight like royalty. She fought like a warrior. Enemy fire struck her shields. Warning lights flared. She did not retreat. The human watched her ship disappear into the chaos. Fear tightened his chest. "Trust her," the queen said quietly. Then the enemy changed tactics. A massive vessel appeared, a command ship, larger than anything seen before. Its presence alone bent space around it. "All units, fall back," the human ordered. Some did not make it. Lives were lost. The cost of war became real. The enemy pushed forward, confident again. That was when the human made his move. "Send the signal," he said. A single human-made device activated. Deep in space. The enemy command ship stopped. Its systems failed one by one. Confusion turned to panic. The princess's squadron struck. The command ship collapsed in on itself, torn apart by its own weight. The battlefield went silent. Cheers filled the command ship, but the war was not over. Reports came in fast. The queen had been injured during a surprise attack on the capital. She had survived, but barely. The palace burned. The human and the princess rushed back. Smoke filled the sky. Guards fought to hold the inner gates. The human moved without hesitation. He led evacuation teams. He carried the wounded. He fought beside soldiers, not above them. The princess stood at his side. Together, they pushed back the attackers. By dawn, the enemy retreated. The city stood damaged, but alive. Inside the medical chamber, the queen lay. Still. The human stood quietly beside the princess. She trusted you, the princess said. I know, he replied. Hours passed. Finally, the queen opened her eyes. She looked at the human. The empire still stands, she said weakly. Yes, he answered. Because we stood together. A faint smile touched her lips. The war continued for weeks. Each battle followed the same pattern. Humans and aliens fighting side by side. Adaptation over strength. Unity over fear. Slowly, the enemy fell back when the final enemy signal vanished. The galaxy changed forever. The human stood on the palace balcony again. The stars felt different now. The princess joined him. The galaxy will remember this war, she said. He nodded. They will remember who stood when everything else failed. Below them, the empire rebuilt. Above them, the future waited. And humanity had finally shown the galaxy its true power. The war was over, not because the enemy was fully destroyed, but because it had learned a hard truth. This empire would not break. Not while humans stood beside it. The palace no longer smelled of smoke. The walls had been repaired, the banners raised once more. Light filled the great hall again, brighter than before. The human stood near the center of the hall. This time, he was not alone. The princess stood beside him. The court had gathered for one final reason. The alien queen slowly rose from her throne. She walked with care, but her presence remained strong. The scars of war had not weakened her. They had sharpened her. Today, the queen said, we do not speak of battle. Her eyes moved across the hall. We speak of the future. The nobles listened closely. For generations, she continued, our empire believed strength came from blood, power, and control. She turned her gaze toward the human. War has taught us otherwise. She raised her hand, and an image appeared: humans and aliens fighting together, rebuilding together, standing together. This human did not rule through fear, the queen said. He led through choice. The hall was silent. She stepped down from the throne and stood before them. The bond I commanded was born of necessity, she said, but necessity has passed. The human felt his breath catch. The queen turned to her daughter. My child, she said softly, the choice is now yours. The princess stepped forward. Her voice was steady. I will not be commanded, she said. I will choose. She turned to the human. I choose him, she said, not because he is human, but because he stands when others fall. A wave of emotion passed through the hall. The queen nodded. So it is decided. The human bowed his head. He had been summoned here as a prisoner. Now he stood as an equal. The queen lifted her voice. One last time. From this day forward, she declared, humanity and this empire walk the stars together. The court bowed. Later, the human stood once more on the balcony overlooking the city. The stars shone quietly above. The princess joined him. You changed everything, she said. He shook his head. No, he replied. We did. She smiled. What will you do now? She asked. He thought for a moment. Build, he said. Protect. Make sure this alliance means something. Below them, ships moved peacefully through the sky. The queen watched from afar. She knew the truth now. Empires fall when they fear change. They rise when they embrace it. In the days that followed, the galaxy reacted. Some worlds feared the new alliance. Others sought it. Humanity was no longer a small voice in the void. It was heard, respected, and trusted. that the human stood before the throne. One final time, not as a subject, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between worlds. The queen rested back in her seat. "The galaxy will test you," she said. "I know," he replied. She smiled. "That is why we chose you." As the hall emptied, the human looked once more at the stars. He thought of Earth, thought of how far humanity had come, of how far it would go. The princess took his hand. The future was unknown. Danger still waited beyond the stars. But for the first time, the galaxy would face it together. And in every system, on every world, a simple truth would be remembered. Never underestimate a human.